Taken from my story, Lim Goh Tong. Chapter 7, Development of Genting Highlands, Labor of Love. I am known in business circles as one who is quite capable of doing things and making decisions that seem to fly in the face of good sense. As far as I can remember, there have been 12 such cases. Here are some that come to my mind readily. In 1953, while canvassing for support for an iron mining project, I made a bold profit forecast of $4 million a year. Everybody regarded it as a joke. In 1956, I undertook to build a 4-mile sewer in Kuala Lumpur that had defied completion by 2 previous contractors, including a reputable British firm. My peers thought I was downright foolish in taking over a project that nobody wanted and predicted certain failure for me too. In 1967, I won a contract to build the Kemubu irrigation scheme with a winning bid that was $10 million lower than that of my closest rival. Everybody said I had gone nuts. In all these cases, I vindicated myself in the end. I'm bringing this up not to prove anything, but just to make the point that if we are confident of our decisions, we should not be bothered by ridicule or criticism. My decision to embark on developing a wilderness called Genting Sampa that straddles the borders between Pahang and Selangor was actually regarded by detractors as the biggest joke. I can still recall the reactions of my friends and fellow builders when I told them about my plan. Almost all of them gaped in incredulity. Some even told me point blank that I was mad, and they could well be forgiven for saying so. At that time, nobody had heard of Genting. In fact, it could not even be found on ordinary maps. But I had chosen to invest heavily in money and time to develop it into a tourist resort. Many likened me to the proverbial foolish old man who tries to move a mountain shovel by shovel. A well-meaning friend cautioned me that if I were in the logging business, it would not be a bad idea to carry out logging on Gunung Ulu Kali. But trying to turn Genting into a tourist resort was as bizarre as a tale in the Arabian Nights. At a time when I had established myself reasonably well in many of my business undertakings, including hardware trading, mining, and contracting, why should I risk everything on developing a wilderness? Why should I, at almost 50 and financially comfortable, opt to stick out my neck again in a risky venture when most in my shoes would have been preparing themselves for a carefree retirement? These were the questions that puzzled many at that time. Actually, the answers are simple. The notions of retirement has never ever crossed my mind. Even now, when I'm well into my 80s, I still work as usual. To me, any time is an opportune time to embark on a business venture, especially one that has little appeal to others. Chances are that in such a venture, there will be no one to compete with you, and if you made good, the reward could well be very handsome indeed. Fortuitous birth. The Genting project basically fitted my idea of an ideal business. No one was interested in it, which meant no competition. I took the plunge against all odds and held on steadfastly. Looking back, I cannot help admiring myself for the courage to tell the world then, laugh at me as you please, but nothing will deter me from going up that mountain. My idea of developing a mountain resort was not the result of an active search of business opportunities. In fact, it just popped up in my mind quite fortuitously one night in 1963. At that time, I was a subcontractor for the Genting Highlands hydroelectric project, of which a well-known West German firm was the main contractor. That night, I had dinner in Genting Highlands with the German firm's general manager, chief engineer, and 9 other people. After a few rounds of liquor, I felt hot and went out for some fresh air. As I stood there taking in the enchanting Highland night view, a cool breeze blew over me. It was so soothing and refreshing that I just closed my eyes and took a deep breath to savor the salubrious mountain air. Then a train of thought ran through my mind. The first thing that struck me was that in tropical Malaysia, everybody likes to retreat to cool mountain resort for a holiday every now and then. This could be seen from the popularity of Genting Highlands with the local as well as foreign tourists. But Genting Highlands was a good 4 or 5 hours drive from Kuala Lumpur, and the roads uphill were narrow and winding. It would be ideal if there was a mountain resort within 1 or 2 hours drive from Kuala Lumpur. I was also convinced that as the standard of living rose steadily in a fast developing Malaysia, more and more people would visit mountain resorts for relaxation and recreation. So why not develop a mountain resort at the doorstep of KL? The idea made me quiver with excitement. But where? A Kuala Lumpur resident for many years, I was familiar with the terrain of its surrounding areas. I knew the only likely place to find mountain high enough for a resort was around Bentong in the east. That night, I tossed and turned in bed, thinking how I would realize my dream of developing a mountain resort. I was so excited that I could not wait to start. The moment I returned to Kuala Lumpur, I got hold of a topographical map of the Bentong district and scanned it. Gunung Ulu Kali at a place called Genting Sempah caught my eyes. I had never heard of the place, but its name sounded pleasant to me. Rising 1,800 meters and just 58 kilometers away from Kuala Lumpur, Gunung Ulu Kali fitted perfectly as my ideal place for a mountain resort. I was ecstatic over the discovery. Within days, I assembled a team to explore the mountain and its surrounding areas. The 20-strong team, including Lim Lian Huat, who had been assisting me for over 35 years, Rahmans, a native of Muar who had surveyed almost all the mountains in Malaysia with me in our search for iron ore, and many of my long-serving workers. Spearheaded by an advance party led by Rahman and guided by some aborigines, we set off the arduous journey. Along the way, we struggled through dense jungles, climbed over many steep mountains, and crossed numerous streams and rivers before succeeding in reaching the summit of Gunung Ulu Kali. During the expedition that lasted 9 days and 8 nights, we gathered a wealth of data on the topography, drainage, soil condition, and other relevant aspects of the region. This and the first-hand knowledge about the site that I gained on this valuable journey proved to be very useful in drawing up the plan for developing the resort. On our first encounter, the mountain struck me with her pristine natural beauty and her brazenly cold climate. As we set foot on the summit, I was shivering in the wind because I had not brought along warm clothing. But I was not complaining the cold. The cold would make it special and help to attract visitors to the resort. Despite the biting cold, I was in high spirits. With a little help from the brandy I had brought along, I worked tirelessly, recording every relevant detail. I had fallen head over heels in love with this virgin wilderness and vowed to transform it into my dream resort. During our survey, I discovered that the little-known mountain straddles the border between the states of Pahang and Selangor. This gave rise immediately to a host of questions. Which state government has jurisdiction over the land? To whom shall I submit my application for the project? Where shall I start from? It suddenly dawned on me that I had a colossal task ahead of me.